My family's been excluding me from every family vacation for over a decade. They went nuts when I took an all-expense-paid vacation. Without them, have you ever felt like the invisible one in your own family? Let me know your story down in the comments. I read them all. This isn't a new pain. You have to understand that. This was a chronic ache I'd lived with for 15 years. I'm Olivia. I'm 29. And I'm a financial analyst in Austin. My family. They're very good at appearances. My father, Richard, runs a successful hardware business back home. My mother, Susan, runs his social life, which she considers a full-time job. My older brother, Ethan, is my father's shadow, and my younger sister, Chloe. Well, Chloe is a lifestyle influencer. Her entire brand is built on this image of a perfect, tight-knit, loving family, which is ironic, because I've been the invisible one since I was 14. Their annual family vacations are a masterclass in passive-aggressive exclusion. When I was 21, they went on a 3-week tour of Italy. I found out about it when my mother posted the photos on Facebook. The caption was, "The 6 of us, finally seeing the world together." The 6 of them, my parents, my brother and his wife, and Chloe. I commented, "Looks amazing. When was this?" My mother replied, "Oh, honey, it was last minute. We just assumed you couldn't get the time off. You know how these things are." I had 2 weeks of paid time off, saved. And she knew it. The year after that, they all went on a ski trip to Aspen. The excuse that time my father called me the day before they left. "Hey, Liv, just a heads up, we're heading to Colorado. We tried to get you a room, but the lodge was just completely full. You understand." I didn't understand. I went online. The lodge had 5 different types of suites available for that entire week. But the real core wound, the one that scabbed over but never healed, was my college graduation. I was the first person in my family to get a finance degree. I graduated with honors. I sat in that stadium. A sea of families in matching t-shirts, holding signs, screaming for their kids. I just sat there, waiting. I kept checking my phone. My mother texted me around noon, right before the ceremony. "So sorry we can't make it. Honey, Chloe has a networking brunch with a big brand. And it's just so important for her career. You get it. We're proud of you." I remember staring at that text. An influencer brunch? They chose an influencer brunch over my college graduation. I sat through the whole thing, holding back tears. I watched other graduates get buried in lease and balloons and hugs from their parents. I just walked to my car, and that's when I saw them. My Aunt Linda and my Uncle David. They were standing by my beat-up old sedan, holding a wilted bouquet of gas station flowers. They had driven 5 hours, in the pouring rain, from their home. My Aunt Linda is my father's sister. She's a teacher. My Uncle David is a mechanic. They don't have a lot of money. Linda ran up and hugged me so hard, I almost dropped my diploma. We wouldn't have missed this for the world. "Olivia," she said, and her eyes were watery. David just pulled me into a hug and said, "We're so damn proud of you. Kid." They were the only ones who showed up. They're the only ones who ever did. That's the family I'm talking about. My chosen family. And I never, ever forgot it. The breaking point wasn't loud. There was no screaming match. It was just a quiet Tuesday morning in my high-rise condo in Austin. I got an email from HR. My annual bonus and vested stock options had cleared. I logged into my account, and I just stared at the number. $45,000. The feeling I had wasn't joy. It was power. It was the feeling of a lock clicking open. I sat there with my laptop, the sun hitting the glass skyline of the city. On one side of my screen, I had my bank account. On the other, I had Instagram. My sister, Chloe, had just posted a story. It was a boomerang of her, my mom, and my dad clinking mimosas at brunch. The caption read, "Annual family trip planning. 2, guess where we're going next?" I watched the looping video of their smiling faces, and I felt nothing. The usual sting was gone. For 15 years, I had been waiting for an invitation to a table I was never welcome at. I looked at the $45,000, and I realized I didn't have to wait for an invitation anymore. I could send one. I closed Chloe's Instagram. I opened a new tab. I typed in luxury private villas Costa Rica. I found one with an infinity pool, a private chef, and a view of the ocean that made my chest ache. I booked it. All of it. I didn't confront my family. I made a silent counterattack. My first call was to my Aunt Linda. I just said, "Hey, I need you, Uncle David, and Mia to book a week off from work and school next month." Silence. Then, "Olivia, is everything okay? Is it your father?" "Everything's perfect," I said. "It's important. Just trust me." She hesitated for half a second. "Okay, we trust you." The next weekend, I drove to their house. I had a simple white envelope in my bag. My 14-year-old cousin, Mia, opened the door and tackled me with a hug. "You're here for Sunday dinner." I told her I had something for them first. Linda and David came into the living room, wiping their hands on dish towels, looking worried. I handed the envelope to Mia. She opened it. Inside were the first-class flight itineraries and the confirmation for the private villa. She just stared at it. "Wait. Is this real?" she whispered. I nodded. "We leave on the 10th. Mia screamed. It wasn't a little yell. It was a full-body, rattling the windows scream of pure joy. She started jumping up and down, waving the papers. "We're going to Costa Rica. We're flying first class." Uncle David took the papers from her. His hands, usually covered in grease, were trembling. He looked at the price. He looked at me. His eyes just filled. He couldn't speak. Aunt Linda was the last to look. She saw the total cost. "Olivia," she said, her voice breaking. "Honey, no. This is too much. We can't accept this." I walked over and put my hands on hers. "Aunt Linda," I said, "you and David drove 5 hours in the pouring rain to watch me walk across a stage for 30 seconds. You showed up. You're my real family." I looked at all three of them, Mia bouncing off the walls, David wiping his eyes, Linda holding her breath. "This is happening," I said. "Pack your bags." That was the reinvestment. It wasn't about revenge. It was about taking all the love and resources I had been trying to waste on people who didn't want it, and finally investing it in the people who had always valued me. It was the best $45,000 I ever spent. The first 3 days in Costa Rica were the best 3 days of my life. I mean that. I watched my 14-year-old cousin Mia learn to surf, her face a mix of terror and pure adrenaline. I watched Aunt Linda, a high school teacher who worries about school supplies, read a novel in a hammock, with a private chef bringing her fresh fruit. I watched Uncle David, a man who works 60-hour weeks in a hot garage, just float in the infinity pool, staring at the ocean. For 2 hours, he cried on the first night. At dinner, just looked at the sunset and the food, and all of us, and just cried. We were happy. We were a family, and I'd made it happen. And, of course, that's when the digital bomb went off. Aunt Linda, in her joy, had been posting pictures on her Facebook. Just simple, happy pictures. Her and David at the beach. Mia with a monkey. All four of us at dinner, laughing. Meanwhile, my sister Chloe was also posting her perfect family content. The mimosas, the trip planning, all of it. The problem is, we have a distant cousin who follows both of them. This cousin saw Chloe's post about planning the next family trip and commented, right there for everyone to see. That's so funny. Chloe, because your sister Olivia is in Costa Rica right now with Linda and David's family. The pictures look absolutely amazing. All hell broke loose. We were on our way back from a hike when my phone, which I'd left in the villa, started to explode. I'm not exaggerating. By the time I picked it up, I had 20 missed calls from my mother, Susan. Then the text started. From my father, Richard. A massive wall of text about family betrayal. Stabbing your mother in the back. And what did we ever do to deserve this disrespect? From my brother, Ethan. Hey, Chloe's freaking out. How much did this trip even cost? Dad's gonna wanna know. And from my sister, the influencer, Chloe. In my Instagram DMs, a series of question marks, followed by, you need to take those pictures down. Now, you're making everyone look bad. This is so typical of you. I just stood there in the villa, my hands shaking. Aunt Linda saw my face and rushed over. Olivia, what is it? What's wrong? I couldn't even speak. I just showed her the phone. The next morning, Uncle David took me deep sea fishing. Just the two of us. He knew I was upset, and he knew I needed to get away. We were miles from shore. The water was calm, but I was still shaking. I was reading a new text from my father. This one about how Aunt Linda had poisoned me against them. David watched me. He's a quiet man. He doesn't talk unless he has something to say. Finally, he cut the boat's engine. The sudden silence was deafening. You're letting him get to you, he said. It wasn't a question. I just held up the phone. He's saying, Linda. Saying, you guys. That you manipulated me into this. David let out a long, slow breath. He looked at the horizon. Liv, he said. I'm gonna tell you something I probably should have told you years ago. This ain't about you. Not really. It's about your father and my wife. I looked at him. What are you talking about? When your grandparents, Richard and Linda's parents, passed away, he said, they left the bulk of the estate to both of them, but they left the original family land, the old homestead, only to Linda. Your father, he said, was furious. He saw it as a betrayal. But your grandparents knew. They knew Richard was irresponsible. They knew Linda was the only one who would protect it. He paused, letting the weight of it sink in. He has never, ever forgiven her for that. He has spent the last 30 years in a silent competition with her, trying to prove he was the better child. He pointed at my phone, at the angry texts from my father, and then you came along. I didn't understand. What do I have to do with that? David gave me a sad smile. Liv, you're not just like Linda in your temperament, calm, smart, responsible. You went to Austin. You became a high-earning financial analyst. You became independently successful. You're everything he resents about her. And you're everything he failed to control in himself. You, he said, are his narcissistic mirror. That phrase hit me. A narcissistic mirror. Every time he looks at you, David said, he doesn't see his daughter. He sees a reflection of all his own failures. He sees the sister he's pathologically jealous of. Only you're younger and more successful. Your very existence is an insult to him. So he has to exclude you. He has to make you the problem. Because if you're not the problem, then he is. I just sat there, in the middle of the ocean, as 15 years of rejection suddenly clicked. It wasn't because I was uptight, like Katie said in the original story. It wasn't because I was too busy or difficult. It was because I was a mirror. It wasn't that I was unlovable. It was that my very presence was intolerable to my own father. It was the most painful, and, in a weird way, the most freeing realization of my entire life. I flew back to Austin with a tan and a spine of steel. Costa Rica had given me peace, and Uncle David had given me clarity. I wasn't a victim anymore, just a woman who finally fixed her mirror. When I reached my floor, my stomach dropped. My father, Richard, stood outside my condo like a monument to lifelong disappointment. No hello. No. How was your trip? You need to call your mother. He said, she's a wreck. You've embarrassed this entire family. Olivia. I unlocked my door and walked inside. He followed without permission. Then came the script. I'd heard my whole life. I was dramatic, ungrateful, too busy for the family. I had abandoned them. He rewrote decades of neglect as if I wouldn't recognize my own memories. The old me would have cried. The new me simply said, "You done." He wasn't. He demanded I call my mother and apologize for the betrayal, standing between me and the door. Bigger, angrier, certain he still had power. I pulled out my phone. His smugness told me he thought I was giving in. "I'm not calling Mom," I said. "I'm fact-checking." I scrolled through the collection I'd saved for years, group chats I was excluded from, trip itineraries planned months ahead, posts from vacations I was too late to join, 15 years of receipts. His face hardened. The act fell away. What replaced it was cold fury, the look of a man whose favorite tool had stopped working. "You're just like your aunt." He spat, holding grudges. Dramatic. "I want you to leave," I said. He laughed. "I'm your father. I'm not leaving until you call and apologize." I simply nodded and called Uncle David on speaker. "Liv, you home safe?" David answered immediately. "Yeah," I said, staring at my father. "But my father is in my apartment and refusing to leave." David's voice became steel. "I'm on my way. Don't hang up." My father's bravado evaporated. He lunged for the door. "You've destroyed this family," he shouted as he fled. When the door slammed, a picture frame fell, a photo of me, Linda, David, and Mia in Costa Rica. The glass cracked, but our smiles remained intact. The next morning, Chloe struck. She sent a wall of text accusations, rewritten childhood events, gaslighting woven into a novel-length tantrum. It wasn't anger, it was fear. Her perfect family brand was cracking. I screenshotted everything and sent it to Aunt Linda. Her call came in 30 seconds. "That brat," she snarled. Then she calmly dismantled every lie Chloe had written, line by line, memory by memory. It felt like an exorcism. "Olivia," she finally said, "you were the family scapegoat. You held their dysfunction together by letting them blame you. And now you stopped. So what do I do? You live your life. Block her. Let them sit in the mess they made." I blocked Chloe. And then, slowly, I built something new. Sunday dinners at Linda's. Mia running to hug me. A warm, ordinary home. That Christmas, Linda handed me a velvet box. Inside was a house key. "This is your home," she said. "You never have to knock." And I cried because for the first time, I believed her. Family isn't blood. Family is who opens the door, hands you a key, and says, "Welcome home."